Okay, so welcome back. We'll start our discussion where we left yesterday. If you remember, towards the end, we were talking about that we need to recycle this electronic waste rather than sending them into the dump sites. Right now, as I also mentioned that in Indian context, very few of electronic waste that you and I are producing or the institutions are producing, the companies are producing, are actually ending up with the recognized recycler. When I say, I would rather use the word authorized recycler. There are a certain authorized recycler as per the EWaste Management rule, which we'll talk about that. So there is only a little bit of e-waste is reaching them. Most of the e-waste actually going into the informal sector, and which is managed in a very crude manner, leading to a lot of environmental and human health damages. So we'll continue that discussion, like why the recycling is more should be the way to go forward in terms of electronic waste, and what are the different I will also introduce some of the companies which are out there. What are the companies which are out there which are already working in India, but they are struggling based on my personal interaction with many of them. They are actually struggling to meet to run their plant at the capacity at which they have designed. They are not able to get the e-waste. So that's that's kind of really, we produce a lot going into informal sector, but things are not coming to formal sector, and the basic reason for that is informal sector, they are not ready to pay any money for getting the garbage from you. The informal sector is actually ready to pay you few hundred rupees, but if you think about that few hundred rupees, what kind of environmental damage it is doing, and ultimately we may end up paying more cost in more like a health cost. I'm not advocating for any particular company here. I'm just stating the fact. It's really not possible for a well-established company with a very good technology out there to really start giving money to individual e-waste producers to get the e-waste from them. If some company tells you that he can do that, he or she is actually basically cheating on us. It's because if it has been possible, why it is not being done in Western Europe? Why it is not being done in North America? The people there are not. Is not that they are not. They don't want money. They also would like to have money, but it requires a lot of investment to set up those plants. And maybe later on there could be some cost sharing. But right now, with all this capital investment, those companies needs to survive, and they need to start getting those electronic waste. So why do we need to recycle? Huge gap between generation and recycle of e-waste. As you saw in the previous, if you remember from the previous video, only less than 10% actually is getting recycled in India. So that's some more maybe in informal sector, but there is a huge gap between the generation and recycling of e-waste. So we have a huge gap there. And we need to organize, we need to get these electronic waste start being recycled to avoid the health hazard, to provide values for the obsolete electronic items, keep your city clean, reduce environmental degradation. And one of the things that needs to happen is organize the informal sector. There is a lot of informal sector working in this area, but somehow we need to bring this informal sector and formal sectors together. And that's how this maybe say in terms of electronic waste. If you think about the CPU, what we have, we can dismantle. It's essentially either a plastic box, if it's a newer one. If it's an older one, it may be a metal box in it to start with. There are a lot of screws. So in terms of dismantling of this electronic waste, that can be done by informal sector. But the processing of those circuit boards, processing of those is to where you have a lot of high tech where it comes in terms of a lot of acids, chemical processing, or those kind of processing, that should be left to the formal sector. And so there has to be a marriage between the informal and formal sector. We don't want this informal sector to go away. Their livelihood is also needed, but not at the cost of the environment and the cost of their own health. So it's basically what we need is a merger of informal and formal sector, and at the same time getting them trained under some programs like a Skill India mission, all those different missions that we have programs now. They can do this, they can organize the informal sector and bring it to the formal stream. So that's even some of the companies are trying to do that. In Bombay, what is one of the oldest e-waste recycler in India is based out in Mumbai, EcoReco. One Mr. Jain is heading that company, and I had seen him at some of the meetings of waste related meetings, and he advocates that too, that we have to get this informal sector, and for informal sector is very good in collection of e-waste. Informal sector can do the dismantling part, but then it has to come to the formal sector for those. But of course, how the economics will work. So because the money that you can make is actually from those gold and other stuff which is out there. So how the economics will work, that has to be, somebody has to be there. Maybe government has to make a small body which can bring those bodies together, all these stakeholders together, and try to mediate between them to come up with some sort of solution so that it can work in that area. So management of e-waste, that's what I was trying to say. This is in terms of the e-waste management, in terms of recycling. What is really the typical way how it is done in a developing country, or developed country? You will have the e-waste coming in, and then it will get sorted. If there will be some electronic waste which can potentially be repaired and can be used, can be repaired, can be upgraded. So you test it out, and if you think that it can be used, it can be refurbished, and things can go back into the market. Places like OLX, like eBay, and there are a lot of sites these days now where you can refurbish computer. Even on Amazon and Flipkart, many times you see that they say that this is not the brand new product, this is a refurbished product, and there is a market for that. As long as it's from a trusted supplier, people will buy it. So this is one way of going, like you can repair, upgrade, test, and refurbish. So if there is only one item is bad, that can be always replaced, and things can still start working. But if it's of no use, it has to go into the cannot be used at all, then it has to be dismantled. And this part does not involve that much of chemicals and other stuff. There is not much human health and environmental degradation happening with this part. What is happening problematic is when we start getting into residual disposal, we try to have precious metal recovery, and that's where all these heavy aquaresia and other processes are being used by this informal sector in a very crude way. And then there will be scrap which just gets dumped on the side of the road, or sometimes in the low-lying area, sometimes very close to a river, or sometimes close to a pond. There are instances where people have found that the pH of a water body near that is almost zero. Lead concentration is almost several hundred times more than what should be there in like a surface water body. So those becomes a problematic. And then there is a CRT, which used to be a big component. Gradually our CRTs will go down. CRTs, actually we are not using that much CRT. Still everything is becoming flat panel, and even computers, monitors, TVs, CRTs are gradually phasing out. But in the disposal stream, you will see some CRTs showing up. So if you have the CRTs which could be packed, which can be used for if it's can be used for captive use, can be packed and sold if it's in a working condition. If not, that glass can be recycled, and lead can be recovered from that, and those things can be done. So in general, this is in a big picture, this is how the e-waste management typically works when we try to keep it outside the landfill. That's the goal here, to keep it out of the landfill. So let's look at some of these top e-waste management companies in India, just like in case so we have eParishara, which is India's first e-waste recycler. They claim themselves to be the first e-waste recycler. It's a pretty big company based out in Bangalore, and then now they have branches in some other places as well. So they try to recycle in an eco-friendly way, and the objective of eParishara, they are trying to collect the e-waste and do the recycling in an eco-friendly way. Then you have EarthSense, which is another company which is based out of it's in Andhra Pradesh. And then you have Telangana now, not in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana now, and then it has its services in the area of Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, Kerala, and other places. So that's where they are doing their work. Then what they do actually in terms of steps, they collect the garbage, they transport it, they segregate, dismantle, and recycle. So recycling efficiency is they can recover from e-waste. One of the good thing from the e-waste is almost 98% of the things can be recovered. So if you just look at any electronics, say if you have an old computer at home, just take it apart. If just take it apart. If you are an engineer, we should be good in that, isn't it? We should try to take things apart and try to learn what is in there. So if you take it apart, what you will see, if it's an older computer, the casing will most likely will be of iron. So you will have the iron there. You will have some plastic wiring. You will have some cables. You may have some mostly plastics. Then you will have metals. So these are the major components there, and then you will have several circuit boards, motherboard, and those kind of stuff. So those motherboard, circuit boards where you have this printed wiring, PWB, like a printed wire board, they have heavy metals, and some of these capacitors and other things also have heavy metals. So those are, other than that aspect, which could be maybe around 15-20% depending on the model, and so other than that, 70-80% can just go directly into the recycling stream. So if it's a metal, it can just go to metal recycling. It doesn't have to go to a e-waste recycler. So once it's dismantled, so once the e-waste is collected from the generating point, and then it gets transported to the facility, they do the segregation, and after the segregation, so any metal can go for metal recycler. If there is a plastic, it can go to plastic recycler. The problem with electronic plastic is that it is always a mixed plastic. It's not PET, HDPE like that. It is always a blended plastic together. So it becomes a little bit difficult, but still plastic could go to a plastic recycler. And then the problematic elements are those things which has heavy metals in there. And that's where, in terms of recycling of those heavy metal components, requires a specialized kind of processes, and that's where these companies comes in picture, where we need to get this done. So up to this point, still you can have this informal sector do this work for us. If government, the problem in right now, what is happening is, although we have the EWaste management rules, but is our suppliers are, these companies, recycling companies, are not working at their full capacity. They are not getting the garbage. They are not getting the e-waste coming to them. So if we can take this informal sector, do this job, which is they are doing it anyway right now for most of the electronic waste, and then get this area, get our authorized recycling company which is like a good technology out there. If we can use them on this side, it's a win-win for both. But somebody has to make it happen, and I think it's only the government organization, some sort of semi-government or quasi-government organization has to set up, which can facilitate. That's how they are doing it in other countries. Like in Ontario, there is a e-waste stewardship program. And it's a very small organization, government funded organization. What the government does, it gets money from all these e-waste electronic producers who sell their product in Ontario. As I was telling you in the previous video, you have to pay $35 extra for a laptop that you buy. 35 is just approximately, and depending on the type of what is the cost of the laptop, and that money, part of that money go to that EWaste stewardship program that funds that program. And there is a few, like a couple of people who are hired, and their job is just to bring these people together, all the stakeholders on the one table, facilitate this kind of stuff. And since they are semi-government, they have the backing of the government, so they can enforce certain things. So if you leave it to the private parties and let them talk to each other, they always will be, one person will be looking at their benefit, the other person will be looking at their benefit, and it's very difficult. Sometimes it may happen, but many times it's getting them together is difficult. Once there is a government oversight, as long as it's an honest, ethical oversight, it can work, and it has been shown to work. Same thing they are doing for EPR concept, even for municipal solid waste. Say, rather than having all these different companies doing their individual collection, they get the money from all these different producers, bring it to one pool of money, and then let the person come in. Say, for example, Philips or Samsung or Dell. They are good in making the product and selling the product. They are not good in collecting the waste coming out of it. So there are people who are good in collection of the waste. So let them do their job rather than forcing Dell, Samsung to take the money from these Dell, Samsung and Philips, set up a body, and that body should do the oversight, and let the people who are expert, who actually knows the business, who are doing the business, mostly informal sector, let them do the collection. There is no problem as long as they do it properly. They have to do it properly to get the get the money, and then get the formal sector also integrated into that. So that is how things have been done in many other countries, and that is the model. If we force each and every producer to set up their own recycling stations, set up their own collection points, that's it's very difficult, like and the volume is not there for them, it's not profitable for them to do it, and they don't know how to do it. So that's the bottom line, is that they are not expert in that area. So so this is some detail of Earthsense Recycle, based out of headquarters is in Chennai, unit location is in Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra, and they have 4 more units. So pretty much collection center, they have Trivandrum, Coimbatore, Kolkata and Bangalore. So that's where they have their facility. Then Sims Recycling, which is it's a they are trying to do it, they have in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh. Again that company is out there, which is they are trying to do some work in this area. Atero, that's another recycling, it's in Delhi and Hyderabad. They are doing some they are also doing work in this area. So again, very similar concept, everybody is using the similar concept. Here it's the only unit which does complete e-waste management process with end-to-end recycling plant, zero dumping technology. Many of the other plants, what they do some of these like a basic stuff for something highly complicated stuff. So for example, like a batteries and those heavy metal recovery from batteries and other stuff, that actually gets sent over all the way to Belgium. Because it's the technology is not out there, it's mostly done in Belgium, and there is a company called, I think, Unicore, which does that in Belgium, and our but that's in which is collected in the formal sector. Whatever is collected in informal sector, it just gets somehow recycled. That's actually not recycle, they just try to recover some heavy metals to make some money, and the process damage the environment. So Atero, the way they work, they will come to your house, and they will collect the e-waste, all electronic, from your doorsteps. It's a NASA recognized technology inventor, and the wide range of service, countrywide pickup, and then they take it to a center for processing, they recycle it and use it for that. Recycling technology aims to take today's waste, turn into conflict-free, sustainable resource for tomorrow. They do mobile phone recycling. Display unit recycling, battery recycling, PCB recycling, IT goods recycling, and all those things is being done by them. So that's for that. So in terms of unit details, Atero recycling capacity is 12,000 metric ton. It's in Uttarakhand. Center location is Delhi, Hyderabad, and other places they do that. So and then the next is it's a commitment from Green Earth. So that's this particular company. They are based out in Bangalore. E-Waste Recyclers India, EWRI, which is they do the recycling of e-waste. So there are, as you can see, there are companies out there. It's not that companies are not out there in India. We Recycle, that's another one, again based out in Delhi. So they try to do a collection of e-waste. And Green Escape, that's again based out of Delhi. So they have adding a fulfill social responsibility, so sustainable practice. JS Pigments, which is serves mostly in West Bengal, Odisha, Assam, Madhya Pradesh. So that's their area. They do have an office in Kolkata as well. So that's where they are working in this particular area. Again, action plan followed. The collection of disposed zinc, brass, recovery starts with separation of connecting metals. They try to use magnetics, skin float, hand sorting, pre-treatment, melting, refining. So JS Pigment, they are trying to do it as per this environmental sustainability and all that. So this is just to give you some idea about what are the different companies out there. So you don't have to, where. So there are, just to provide you information, that there are a lot of companies out there, so which are trying to do sustainable e-waste recycling in the country. So it's not that things are not there, it's only that there is a gap between these companies are not able to get their e-waste coming to them, and it's mostly going to the informal sector right now. So this headquarters is in Kolkata. Then High Tech Recycling India Private Limited, that's another one. So here they do e-waste, can be recycled, does the e-waste recycling. They again removal the covers, removal of cable assembly, dismantling of rear panel. So what I was trying to explain you earlier, they were cable assembly and wiring, dismantle of rear panel, removal of PCBs, dismantling of other components. So that's they try to do that and recover different metals and plastics and other things out of that. So they have it in Maharashtra, in Pune. If you remember, Maharashtra was the highest producers of e-waste in terms of in India. So that's you see a lot of plants based out in Maharashtra, of course, where the market is. So then Earth EWaste Management Private Limited, that's another company, and some of these companies like this, I collected these informations a few months back, almost a year back. So I hope all these companies are still working. If they are not working, let me know. I would like you to go and search and to these companies' website and find out if they are still working, because some of those companies were really struggling to survive because they were not able to get enough e-waste coming to them. So it's a Earth e-waste management. They again sorting, identify usefulness. So every company has the same sort of process: sorting, identify the usefulness. If it's good, if it can be used, can be refurbished and sold off. Then what are the hazardous components there? You dismantle them, segregate them. Whatever is the hazardous stuff, you treat it. If you can treat it in your plant, if not, you send it to some other plant which can treat it. And then whatever is cannot, if like in case you are disposing it, dispose in a safe manner. You can put it in a safe disposal of electronics component. So that's how they try to do it. That's based out in Gujarat. Collection center is in Surat, 6,000 million tons per annum. So most of the companies are pretty big. So this is how the different companies which are out there. We'll just talk about some of the stuff that is being done in Bangalore, which is the IT capital of India. So Bangalore, in that this was one study done. Basically, it's a summary of this particular study, and they were trying to do e-waste management companies are there in terms of e-Parisara. So they looked at one-to-one interviews, some did software modeling, and they looked at the sourcing, logistics, processing, current handling, status of technology and all that. So in terms of the material flow, as you can see over here, in terms of the e-waste which is there, they were electronics and electronic computer that waste being generated. That's getting into around 12,000 tons per year, and this number is few years old, so this must have gone up. So out of these, they may be able to sell some stuff which is still working, and then that kind of goes back to the consumption stock. If it becomes obsolete, it becomes a e-waste generation, then they have to that any reject can be get recycled. From here, from when you have e-waste, you recycle or downcycle, repair or downcycle. If you cannot repair, you have certain components. Either it can be the whole thing can be reused. If the whole thing cannot be reused, part of the components can be reused. That can go back over here. And then when you try to recycle the components, that again goes to the recycling companies. So this is what they have found, that 30% of all equipment in IT industry became obsolete every year. So almost one third of the computer that we buy becomes obsolete every year. So it's not that the computer that you buy on that year becomes obsolete, because it's a computer that was bought maybe a few years back. These days computers doesn't have a big lifespan because software keeps on changing, processor changing, i5, i7, different this core, that core, and so that leads to a lot of because of the improvement, we do have many times we are forced to buy new computers, new laptops. So that's goes into waste stream. One thing is that in terms of the computer and peripheral, which is part of it actually also gets rejected because of its some bad items. So 5% of the produced item gets rejected and go directly to the recycling process. So that is also there in terms of the whole recycle what they have seen in Bangalore. So here how they were trying to do recycling in e-Parisara or the recycling places: personal computer, dismantle, sorting, segregation. They're here non-recoverable item, non-recoverable item. So you basically, when you do the sorting, segregation, non-recoverable item, but there are some hazardous components. Those hazardous components needs to go to a engineered landfill, hazardous landfill. If there is something incinerable, they can be incinerated. Non-hazardous, non-incinerable can go to a sanitary landfill, which is the municipal solid waste. And a recoverable metal, plastics and glass. And this is actually a very good chunk, metal, plastic and glass. How you recover that? You do size reduction, you shred it, You do some physicochemical separation, density driven vibratory screen, triboelectric separation. So, all those different types of things can be done. Then plastic, it can be pelletized for new product where there could be mechanical recycling, there could be pelletization, organic process, chemical recycling, thermal recycling, those things are there. For glass, there are metallurgical process in terms of glass industry, lead, most of this glass also has a lot of lead, so lead smelters can be used. For metals, there are metallurgical processes which are used, ferrous metal, non-ferrous metal, precious metal. This is the most critical part actually where those things are also used. So, this is how the post recycling processes works for different items in personal computers. So, here again if you look at up to dismantling part up to this part, whether things can be done at the informal sector level, but when it comes to this part, it is better to be done in a formal environment where you have some sort of environmental control, and not only from environmental and human health implication of the people who are of the population, but also for the workers working in these areas. That one of the thing for the informal sector is also those workers. Many of those workers actually don't survive their post 30s or post maybe early 40s. They just because of all the fumes and other things that they inhale, they get all sorts of disease and they die very young, which is really sad. So, but that's what happens to those informal sector people who are working for electronic waste and any other hazardous kind of worker, any hazardous waste. So, e-waste is separated into 4 major categories where computer and computer peripherals, PCBs, which is the printed circuit boards, and electronic components, electrical wires and all other electronic components. So, here main stakeholder of course the government, Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, Bruhat Bangalore Mahanagar Palika, Department of Information and Technology, the generators which is mainly producers and consumers, recyclers both formal and informal recyclers. So, these are the 3 major stakeholders of the process which needs to get involved. So, material recovery, it's in terms of if you look at the electronic waste, typically you will have around 20 in a typical e-waste. This is again few years back, though, so these numbers will keep on changing. These numbers are a bit dynamic. So, they do keep on changing. So, here you can see the glass is around 20%, plastics 35%, metal 57%. If you look at the today's electronics, you will probably have more metal, less metal, especially the ferrous metal. These metals will go down and the others the plastic will go up. Glass probably may stay almost the same, but the plastic we are using more and more plastic now and less metal, especially for casing and all those kind of stuff. Printed circuit board is 4%, cables is 5, ferrous metal is 20, so non-ferrous metal is 28. So, if you look at the most dangerous part is actually PCB. So, in terms of a recycling process, so this 4% is what is causing most of the environmental damage, and this 4% is what has all those costly material out there. So, that's so in terms of where the focus is in trying to recover, making some money. So, using 1 ton computer waste, 99% is used for, from 1 ton computer waste, 99% is used for precious metal recovery, another 1% is for landfilling. So, it's precious metal recovery is being done, but it is mostly done in an informal sector. So, that's and so there are some pre-processing, the current recycling operation only limited to pre-processing. Only technology being used to recycle Bangalore is shredding and pulverizing. So, they are shredding and pulverizing, and then they do some pyrometallurgical and hydrometallurgical process. It's for hydrometallurgical process, they do cyanide leaching, they do halide leaching, thiourea, thiosulfate leaching of precious metal. So, it's a process, they use a combination of manual and mechanical process where manual process forms a large part. So, it's a lot of manual process involved in these facilities. So, as we'll close with this particular slide, and you can look at this video. I am not going to play this video over here, but I will encourage you to look this particular video. There is the Digital India campaign, there is an e-waste management initiative there as well from the government of India. So, new rules also have come up, the rules have been modified a little bit, made a little bit more easy to understand now, easy to follow, and we will talk about that maybe in the video after this, or the week or maybe a video 2 videos from now. And but there is a Digital India initiative. If you go to the website, you can find there is this video that the screen that you're seeing it over here, you will find a very similar screen, and you can play this video and you can look at the details of the Digital India initiative, which one of the component of this Digital India initiative is also focused on how to have a proper e-waste management. So that's what let's kind of wait, let's kind of stop here, and then we'll continue our discussion in the next module, where I will talk about just show you some of the list of different recyclers, and then we'll go into some more detail in terms of rules and other stuff. So again, we are almost towards the end of now 11th week, so one more week left after this. So I will encourage you to answer those questions, do the quiz, ask questions on discussion board, and as at the beginning of this week we also put a questionnaire asking you, very similar to what you did for the municipal solid waste earlier, in terms of the e-waste management, how e-waste is managed in your area. It would be really nice to get your feedback. It's a help, like a request for help. It's my personal request to all of you that please do that survey. It will only take you not less than 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can share that information with all of the people who are registered for this course. It will be really nice to see how the e-waste thing is happening in the country. It will be a good information for all of us. So thank you, and see you again in next video.